Are you struggling to make your female characters come alive? I get it. Or a reader saying that they just don't connect with your female characters? I've got 5 tips to help you write compelling female characters. They are tips I wish I knew when I first started out writing because they would have saved me a lot of rejections. If you want the secrets to writing compelling female characters, then don't click away after tips 1, 2, 3, and 4 because it's the 5th tip that most writers overlook. And before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we've got a lot of writing how-to videos on this channel and you don't want to miss any of them. So let's get right into what makes for compelling female characters. There are 3 things that powerful female leads have in common. They're smart, they're creative, they're independent. Think of Andy and the Devil Wears Prada, Black Widow, Mulan, Barbie. There's a lot of female characters out there that are just amazing and powerful. It's very easy, though, to take those traits too far, which brings us to tip number 1. Build in some vulnerability. Everyone has a soft spot, and the characters we remember and love are no different. Let's look at 2 vastly different characters that are in the same basic demographic as examples for everything that I want to teach you in this video. First, we have Wednesday Addams in the series Wednesday on Netflix. I loved that series. It was really, really great. Jenna Ortega did a fantastic job. In the first few scenes, and frankly, most of the series, Wednesday is standoffish and sarcastic and seems like she doesn't need anybody at all. She walks into Nevermore like that confident new girl that we've all seen before, and everyone around her is stunned. She's different, and she's cool with that because she's at a school that is for the non-normies. And so she fits right in for the first time in her life, but she's also still different from everybody else. As tough as nails as Wednesday seems, she does have one vulnerability, and that is her family. If you look back at the very beginning of the first episode, the whole reason she's in Nevermore in the first place is because she released a school of carnivorous piranha into the pool at her school so that they would attack the water polo team that had bullied her brother. After all, in Wednesday's words, only I can bully my brother. And so she is going to protect him, and you see that throughout the whole thing. As she builds more of a pseudo family with the other students at Nevermore, she will do what it takes to protect them too, because they are her vulnerability and they are her weakness. But it's a good weakness to have. 99% of the time, the reason they have a weakness at all is because of tip number 2. You want to give them difficult histories. Ellie in The Last of Us has probably the most difficult history I've ever seen in a character. She has been through a lot. If you watch the whole series, you can see how much that poor girl has endured. In the first few episodes, though, all we see is her bravado and sarcasm and hear a whole lot of F-bombs. There are peaks, however, when she looks at Marlene, when Marlene is talking about her childhood, or when she watches Joel and Tess together, where you can see that Ellie is just this wounded little girl underneath all of that sarcasm and middle fingers. And she really does want that sense of family that has been taken from her. That's what keeps us hooked, because we want to see that Ellie gets what she so clearly needs but won't admit out loud. The reason why these characters don't admit their vulnerabilities is tip number 3. They are unapologetically themselves. They are okay with who they are in their own skin. The dance scene with Wednesday Addams is classic and famous because it's Wednesday just being Wednesday. She has no apologies, no attempts to conform. She is just going to do what works for her. Throughout that series, she is always herself, something that takes a lot of courage in high school, which is a big reason why people identified with her so much, because we all know what it feels like to be that one kid who doesn't fit in school. The audience knows that, sees that, and applauds her bravery. That hints at what we know she'll need later, which brings me to tip number 4. You want to make them brave. They don't necessarily have to jump off a cliff or run into a burning building, but when the chips are down, these need to be characters that we know we can depend upon. Compelling female characters don't stand around whining or looking for a man to fix things. They take the bull by the horns and they do it themselves. Even if they don't want to, or even if they're terrified, like Ellie does when Joel has been shot and he's unconscious and she needs to do something to save his life. And she does not want to go out there because she knows what's waiting for her out there. The reader knows that these compelling female characters will save the day because that is who they are. They are the ones you can depend upon in a crisis. But why? That brings us to tip number 5, the most important tip, the one that so many writers overlook when they're creating their character. They are wounded and insecure, just like all of us. A lot of writers put this in, but just on a light surface level. They don't go deep enough with it. If you look at Ellie, she's a lot like a stray dog that has been left on the side of the road and abused by their owners. She is so afraid to trust anybody. She basically nips with her word at anybody that tries to get close. She's terrified to get close to Joel, but she's starting to really care about Joel, and she's sort of seeing him as a parental role model and a friend. To be fair, Joel goes back and forth himself because he has his own wounds and insecurities from losing his daughter. So their relationship is a constant push-pull the whole time. Where we really see her showing some of these wounds and insecurities that she has from before is when she finds that book of jokes and she starts reading them to him. And at first, he doesn't really respond. He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to deal with it. But she is really striving to make that connection because that book means something to her, something that we find out later. It has a really tragic history, and we see that come together when Sam is killed. That joke book is symbolic of the child that Ellie is underneath it all, and the family that she misses so much and lost due to some very devastating consequences. Something that we see echoed in the relationship with Sam, that small child that comes along. We see all of these awful tragedies that Ellie has been through. Those are the things that make us love her, because you just want to come over and give that girl a hug. Wednesday Addams, even for all of her exterior strength and sarcasm and her quick wit and all of that, is still insecure when it comes to relationships with people like Enid and Tyler and Xavier, because this is a girl who has been outcast and bullied and set apart her whole life. She has never really found her place in the world, and so she has learned to go internally. And as she starts to make those outward gestures towards other people, that opens her up to being hurt. And we see her go and pull back, go and pull back. And that's a really great technique that you can use in your book as a character tries, fails, comes back, tries, fails again. And they start to make baby steps in the direction of growth, because that's what we want to see, is growth. Even if you start off with a female character who's not that strong, we want to see her grow and become strong over the course of the book. If you can layer these 5 elements into your female characters, or frankly any characters, you can avoid creating that Perils of Pauline cartoonish figure that gets tied to the railroad tracks by the evil villain and then has to wait for some knight in shining armor to come rescue her. Nobody wants to read that. We want to read about compelling female characters who take the lead, who are strong, that we know we can depend on in a crisis, and who deserve the happy ending that they get. These female characters need to be layered, complex, and hard to love, but worth the effort. Don't forget to subscribe for more writing videos like this, or to come to our writing sprints, which we have a couple times a week. Tell me who your favorite compelling female character is and why you love them so much.